I know so many people in medicine are looking to leave, unfortunately. So many people are searching for non-clinical paths, things that they can do that still lets them incorporate all their training and their knowledge, but doesn't require them to see patients on a daily basis. So today I'm bringing you a different option, an option I think a lot of people don't even think about or maybe don't even know exists. What I'm talking about is owning and running residential assisted living homes. The guest that I have on today is a PA. She left clinical practice less than 2 years ago and has started this kind of business. She's going to talk about what is great about it, what the struggles are, how you go about doing it, why you should do it, and what the income potential is. If that sounds interesting to you and you'd love to hear more, then please stay tuned. Hi, it's Michelle with the Medicine Couch. Thank you so much for joining me. If you like what I do and want to support the channel, please hit that subscribe button down below. It really does help out the algorithm. And also, if you find this information helpful or interesting, share it with friends or colleagues that may also enjoy the video. Now let's hear from my guests and learn all about residential assisted living homes.
My name is Katie Dickey, and I've been a physician assistant for 12 years. During that time, I practiced family medicine with a little bit of urgent care.
Are you still practicing clinically or what are you doing now?
So I stepped away from practicing clinically in the fall of 23 last year to open and operate our residential assisted living homes.
I think it's something that is so needed, and I think a lot of clinicians might be interested in this. So I want to kind of pick your brain about all this. Can you tell us a little bit more about what exactly a residential assisted living home is?
Yes. So residential assisted living homes are assisted living in a residential setting. My houses are homes in neighborhoods around 3,000 square feet and converted to have multiple bedrooms and bathrooms to help assist the aging population with their activities of daily living. And we have to follow the rules and the guidelines that are set forth for assisted living, the bigger facilities that people are probably more familiar with, but it's just on a much, much smaller, more personalized scale.
So is it kind of like a nursing home, but just on a very small scale and in a residential neighborhood? Like, do you take care of people with those kinds of medical needs, or is it a little bit less on the scale of acuity?
It's less on the scale of acuity, but because we're smaller, we can take higher acuity residents. I allow people to age in place. So once somebody comes in and they're walking and using a walker and they've been in the house for an extended period of time, and let's say they have a stroke or have an unfortunate event that really causes their health to decline, I will allow them to age in place and be on hospice in the house so that they don't have to find a new home. So in that way, we can function as a nursing home. Now, if somebody has a lot of skilled nursing needs, like a colostomy bag or even sliding scale insulin, that is a little bit more out of our scope. We do have to have a scope of practice set forth through the state for a set of guidelines for people that we will admit to our assisted living.
No, okay. I guess that makes sense. They must regulate it fairly heavily to make sure that people's needs are being met and people aren't just being stuck in a home somewhere and no one taking care of their medical needs.
Exactly. And really, whenever I first started transitioning into the role of becoming a long-term care administrator to operate the home appropriately, the first sentence in our training book was the assisted living industry is the most highly regulated industry in the United States of America.
Which probably surprises some people because you hear some horror stories about, nursing homes and assisted living places. Just on a human level, this is such a great idea, right? Because it just seems like there's not great options as people get older. Can you tell us a little bit about like how you got into this or why you got into this?
Yes, so right as I was finishing up PA school 12 years ago, my mother, who was 58, she was diagnosed with early onset dementia.
Mm.
And my sister and I were told that she can't live on her own, she can't drive. you need to have a conversation about durable power of attorney and her end of stage wishes and start that process. So we talked amongst ourselves and had a meeting. She was very lucid at the time, and she did not want to live with me or my sister. She was very adamant about that. And we tried to find her a roommate, but that didn't end up working out. And so we went shopping for assisted livings. And once we moved her into one, it was great. I mean, it was clean. She was going to get her meds. She was going to be safe. She was going to get 3 meals a day. There were activities. It checked all the boxes that people are
Yeah.
looking for when they're looking for a living place with a loved one. But she was 20 years younger than the average
Mm.
person in the assisted living. And so I called the Alzheimer's Association because they were the ones who our neurologists directed us to help kind of get a list started for where to look in the city. And I said, does anyone have a house? So you can go from like a house to a house. And that way you're in community with others, but you don't have to find like your table that you sit at, like starting a
Right.
new school.
Yeah.
And so our experience with her and going through that with her is really my motivation to having these homes so that people can move from a home to a home. It doesn't make it easy, but
Right.
I think it lessens the idea and the complexity of moving out of your home that you've lived in for decades, most people, and then you're in community with others who are in a similar stage of life.
So let's talk a little bit more about kind of the nuts and bolts about these residential assisted living homes. Like, what is the typical size, or how many residents are typically in a home?
Our homes have 7 bedrooms. We're licensed to take up to 10 people because we have 2 larger bedrooms that could accommodate like a husband and wife. They can stay together and they can age in place together. Most houses in Oklahoma City have about 5 bedrooms and about 5 residents. In other areas of the country, some homes will be larger and have up to 10 to 16 bedrooms. I
Wow.
think I think 16 is a little too large because you have some memory cares that are 16-bed facilities. But we are building a house in Norman, Oklahoma that will be a 10-bedroom house, but that's as large as we will go.
So I imagine these homes, especially as they get larger, are probably in some nicer areas of town, right? Because that's where the bigger homes are built. Am I guessing correctly on that?
Yes, you are.
So does each person that lives there, does each room like have to have its own bathroom, or do people share? How does that work?
So in one house, I have 2 bedrooms that share a bathroom, and it's a Jack and Jill style type bathroom in that the bathroom is in between both rooms. In our second house, every room has its own private bathroom.
Okay.
And it really depends on people's preferences. The law states you can only have in Oklahoma 4 people to 1 bathroom. Most people who are coming to us are accustomed to having their own private bath. However, it hasn't been as much of a deal breaker as one would think sharing a bathroom because you're not going to shower at the same time.
Right.
And really, your bathroom schedules are going to be pretty different because we're
Yeah.
all different. And they have their own private sink. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not like they're having to get ready for work in the morning or anything
Yes.
like that. And I assume if you could live in a smaller, setting like this, sharing a bathroom would be preferable to for some people than to going to a facility anyway. So there's going to be compromises along the way. I'm curious about staff. I assume that there's staff that have to be there. And how does that work? Does the staff live there, or do they come in shifts?
Our staff come in shifts. I have 3 8-hour shifts in a 24-hour period and 1 swing shift that supports the day aides. Everybody is a certified nursing aide or a certified medication aide or an advanced certified medication aide. Those privileges vary across state lines. Here, the advanced certified medication aide can pass medications orally. They can help people administer their inhalers. And they can also administer meds in a J tube. Then there's a further certification where they can check blood sugar and also administer insulin.
And so then do they also help like home health would as far as with bathing and things like that? Or are they pretty much just there to make sure things are safe in the home?
No, so all the aides do the cooking, they do the cleaning, they do the activities, they do the showering. You have to have the med aid certification to pass meds. Right
Right.
now, I have 16 employees between two houses, and all but I think three have the certifications to pass medications. In a larger setting, the medication aides run a med cart to pass the meds to all the residents who live in the larger facilities. But because we're smaller and we have only 7 residents to pass meds to, you can get your med passing done in an hour. And then
Yeah.
after that, you can help with breakfast, you can help clean up breakfast, start an activity, or help manage whatever anybody's dealing with as far as their dementia or their
Yeah.
chronic illnesses.
People being active and continuing to be involved in their daily care and doing activities like working in the yard and things like that is helpful to people. So the residents in this type of situation, are they able to partake in things like that? Like if they want to help with the cleaning or work in the yard, do they do things like that?
We try and keep them as independent as possible. Because of the cost of care, a lot of people will come to us whenever they've progressed far enough in their chronic
Wow.
illnesses that they don't ambulate that well. But if they want to help fold towels, like we can hand them towels and they can help fold towels, especially those living with dementia. If they were previous homemakers, that's a great activity for them because that's what their brain is familiar with.
So you mentioned costs in there, and this is something that I think is kind of in people's minds, but they don't really have an idea of what to prepare for if their parents are aging and they're thinking about that this may be something in the future. Can you talk about that? Like give people kind of a ballpark and how you think this more personalized care in these residential homes compare cost wise to being in like an assisted living facility? And of course, there's a wide range, but just in general.
Yes. So there is a wide range, and there's two different ways that assisted livings will come up with a cost structure. Most of the traditional ways that I'm aware of here in Oklahoma City are a level of care. So you'll come in, they'll give you a base cost, and that base cost can be around $3,000 to $4,000.
And that's per month, right?
That's per month, yes. They'll do an assessment of your loved one, and then from there, they'll determine a level of care, which will add on anywhere from 600 to $3,000.
Wow.
It just depends. And you will get an assessment every year in a level of care facility, and they're doing it to make sure that they're meeting the needs of your loved one. In the residential assisted living setting, it's an all-inclusive model. So the
Okay.
cost you come in with is generally the cost you're going to leave with. And here in the city, that cost averages around $7,000 a month.
Wow. Yeah, that is a lot.
It is, but it covers everything from the nursing management and the medication management, covers food, snacks, the mortgage, all the bills that come with it, cable, phone, all the way down to like the toilet paper, the paper towels. So it's everything. And some homes may not operate that way. In Oklahoma City, that is how most of the homes here operate.
Does insurance or Medicare or anybody supplement that at all? Or is that all, is it usually just cash pay for people?
So it's usually private pay, but long-term care insurance is really supplemental and helpful to people
Mhm.
in affording care for their loved ones. So I would encourage people listening, your listeners, if they haven't looked into that for themselves, or their parents to go ahead and start looking into that. I would say about half of our people have that supplemental benefit to help pay for their care. Some long-term care plans will only be for a specific amount of time. And some of them I'm learning they don't kick in. There's like a 90-day window or waiting period before they kick in. So you may be out of pocket the first few months before your long-term care policy kicks in. But it's really going to be, I think, imperative for our generation. And like I said, if your parents are baby boomers and they haven't looked into it yet, they need to look into it.
And I don't know if I caught in there compared residential assisted living homes in general compared to the cost of an assisted living facility. Are they comparable, or did you say one was generally more than the other?
It really depends. I have had people tell me that they were paying $12,000 to $13,000 a month in a larger facility because of the level of care.
And I guess the add-ons and things too.
Because of the add-ons and just the structure. And so I think we're really comparable after everything is said and done. And the other benefit to the homes is you're not going to have to move. You can age in place. Whereas if you go to a larger assisted living facility, they may have a memory care attached to them. And that was one of the things we liked about the first place we moved my mom into. But even still, they would still have to move into a different room. It would change their environment. And a move is hard on anybody who is aging.
So are you seeing that there is a huge need for this around the country? Like, are you getting more applicants than you have rooms for?
Yes, there's a large need throughout the country. I believe there's 10,000 baby boomers retiring every day. And so that's people in their 60s or 70s. The average age of somebody living in assisted living is around 78, late 70s. And so that number of baby boomers retiring it's only going to escalate over the next 10 to 15 years. And so there will be a large need for senior housing.
Because these are residential homes. Are there issues with zoning, or does there have to be special zoning if people are looking to start one of these?
Not necessarily, no. You do need to check with your city. Some of them have rules set forth like no more than 5 unrelated individuals living in one home. But because of the Fair Housing Act, you can't force an elderly person into a larger facility. They have the right to live in a residential environment. And so there's no special zoning required here in Oklahoma. Now, at other states, it might be different.
Do you have to have a ton of capital, or was it hard to get financing to do this kind of operation?
Does take quite a bit of capital. If you're looking to renovate a house, you need to think about $100,000 per room for renovations. Wow. And if you're wanting to build from the ground up, it's around 165 to 200 a square foot. You can raise money. We've raised money to help build capital. You can also go get a loan as well.
Like you just said, you have a large outlay of cash, you have a lot of expenditures. There's a lot of things you have to think about. But is this a business that people could make comfortable money on? Like, could you replace a PA or an NP income if you started running one of these homes, do you think?
Yes, you could eventually. It won't happen within 6 months, and it may not even happen in a year, but it eventually, yes, you can replace your PA salary.
How much does your training come into play in you actually running these homes?
We still have to have supervision. So I can't practice medicine in the homes, which is fine. But when it comes to coordinating with the hospice companies, with the home health companies, with the patient's primary care physician, with their specialists, if they've been discharged from the hospitals, with the families, because of my medical knowledge and clinical experience, it really allows for a smooth transition to maintain continuity of care. And it also allows for a quick response as far as if you notice someone's gait changing, slightly. Like
Yeah.
that is something we are trained in that not your lay person is not going to be trained in. Or signs of a UTI or pneumonia can be caught real easily just by me being in the home and interacting with the residents and knowing them on a personal level. And so my
Right.
PA training has really helped with that. And it has also helped with just the multitasking part of owning and operating a business.
Is this like a full-time job for you? Is it like 40, 50 hours? Are you in and out of the homes all the time? Can you kind of give us an idea of what it's like being the owner of these assisted homes?
Yeah, right now it's about a 60-hour a week job.
Wow.
But I just hired a house manager. So we opened our second home 3 months ago, and opening that second home really enlarged the responsibility on my plate because it brought in more residents and it brought in more staff, which brought in more responsibility, which means we
Right.
had two menu cycles that we had to manage as far as eating preferences because I make all the menus alongside
Okay.
with a dietitian, and then new staff, training new staff, and then just learning everyone's routines. Every time we get a new resident, it changes the dynamic, and we want to be engaging and provide an enriching environment. But whenever we're turning menus over or trying to figure out that everyone likes what we're eating, because food's probably a little bit more important than playing games, then it just takes some time. And so right now it's a pretty heavy lift as far as time. Once you get a good team in place, that will decrease to a more of a 40-hour a week job. Maybe 20 to 30 is my goal, so I can spend more time with my kids and just have a little bit more free time. But right now, we're still a baby business. We're still
Yeah.
new, and it
Yeah.
is a lot of work. But I'm also very passionate about building a great work environment for the employees and also having a great living environment for the residents and having the families have a good experience with that. So, in order
Yeah.
to build that, I've got to be boots on the ground.
And how long have you guys been doing this?
So we moved in our first resident July of last year, and we opened our second house March 8th, and it is almost full. So we have 6 residents in the second house, and we have 6 residents in the first house.
What are you loving about doing this so far? What are the things that maybe are surprising or things that you're just really enjoying?
I really enjoy the interactions with the family. I really enjoy the coordination of care because it feels like I'm practicing medicine again, and it gets me using that knowledge that I worked so hard to
Right.
obtain. And I really enjoy having control over my own schedule. Even though there is a lot to do, I have control over when I do it and when tasks get done. And so that's been really nice too. But more than anything, just giving the residents a wonderful place to be and seeing them interact at the table is just great when they're eating a meal and the aides have music on and everyone's just smiling, and some of them
Yeah.
can't even talk, and you can tell that they are just enjoying their day, and that just brightens my heart.
Yeah, I mean, that's quite a gift to be able to give somebody to allow them in their senior years to have a comfortable, safe, enjoyable place to live. That's got to be a pretty special feeling, I would think. So what about the downsides of it? What are things that you are struggling with or that have been harder or more stressful than you anticipated?
Managing staff is really tough. And I knew it would be tough going into it because that's what everybody has said. And of course, anybody who's working in medicine right now, not just in assisted living, but in the hospitals and
Right.
in the clinics, they're aware that staffing is just not easy. And it really isn't. And so that's been a lot harder than I expected, but I'm getting better. And then really the managing everyone's preferences has been really difficult. But we're revamping our systems and it's better now.
Yeah, you're so new at it. It'll take a while to get all that flow down. When you talk about managing people's preferences, I started thinking about, well, what happens if you have residents that don't get along or that, and I'm not talking about just maybe, they're not their favorite people, but like that actually actively hate each other or have problems. Have you faced anything like that yet?
So there were a couple residents that would touch a nerve with the other, and really redirection is the key with that. We have a common area that's well lit with a bunch of windows, and the residents really like to sit in that room and watch the birds or listen to music. We have a back patio, so you can separate them and take one to the back
Okay.
patio, or encourage like, hey, let's go see if you need to go to the bathroom. And
Yeah.
really, redirection is key there. I haven't had any all out fighting or anything
Yeah.
yet. So, but for the most part, all of them get along really well.
What about just liability in general? Is there, even if you're not practicing medicine, is there pretty significant liability doing this? And do you have to get like special insurance that covers you, or do you even have to have like malpractice insurance?
Malpractice, no, but we have 7 other different insurance policies that we
Oh,
have to carry, which again plays into the cost of
right.
care. It's like P&L. The state requires us to carry 2 different kinds of insurance. We have to do workman's comp.
It does seem crazy, but that's our society, right? As we are, have to prepare for litigation. So how did you like even learn how to do this? I mean, we heard your story about why you want to do this, but I imagine there's a million and one things that you have to think about or know about to start this. So how did you find out all that information?
So my husband and I were doing a little bit of real estate. We had a few investment properties that we were renting out, and he went down to a conference in Dallas and heard about the concept of residential assisted living. After the talk, he called me and he said, Katie, I think this is what you wanted for your mom. And he said, there's a conference in Phoenix. I think you should go and learn about this concept. And so in September of 2019, I went to a conference put on by the RALA Academy, or Residential Assisted Living Academy.
Okay.
And they teach you the basic bones of the business. They will take you around to their homes so you can see them for yourselves and what they're like. And they bring in experts, people who have been successful on the business and operations side, people who have had HR experience, people who have had their own personal experiences with their loved ones. And you really get to know the concept in that way.
Yep.
Then I came back and started looking at the rules and regulations for assisted living in the state of Oklahoma. And
Yeah.
our law is the only state that separates residential care home, which is that group home setting for disabled adults and people,
Uh,
versus assisted living. And it
okay.
took me a really long time to figure out which one I was going to do. And from there, I enrolled in the long-term care administrators course. And that's where I got the bulk of my education on the rules and the regulation. And I got my questions answered to kind of figure out a game plan for operating the home.
So after having some experience, I know you're still very new in this, and it's hard to know how you'll feel about it in the future. But overall, is this something that you would recommend people to look into, especially clinicians, if they're looking for something else to do to replace their income?
Yes, I would encourage people to do that. I do think in order to survive in this business, you have to have a strong why and a strong reason for wanting to do it. And
Yeah.
I think that's because of how highly regulated it is, and
Right.
that it's not easy to start a business. And
Right.
so if
It's a
you're
lot of
going to
work.
start a business or do something just for money, that's not a good why.
Well, I think this is very cool, and thank you so much for introducing me to this concept. And probably, I'm sure to a lot of the viewers, this may be something that they've never thought about before. So, thank you for what you're doing for people, and thank you for sharing with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I had such a wonderful time.
If you're one of those people looking for non-clinical opportunities, but this maybe isn't what you're looking for, well, I can help you out. Check out this playlist here. I have lots of interviews with PAs and NPs who have left clinical work and gone on to do other things. Maybe you'll find what you're looking for in that playlist. Thanks for joining me. And as always, take care, stay sane, and I'll see you next time on the Medicine Couch. Bye.